Hi, I'm Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, and it is indeed a great pleasure to be speaking to all of you in this very special session at the Unacademy. I've chosen to speak about endurance and entrepreneurship because that's what I'm most familiar with. Because I believe that entrepreneurship is an ideas-driven business journey that is about starting with an idea, shaping it, scaling it, and of course, succeeding with that idea. And in order to do that, I believe that it's all about having an idea that has a purpose behind it. It's about having the passion to stay with that idea and develop that idea. And of course, you've got to persevere in order to succeed. So let me start with this, famous quote of Peter Drucker that says, "The best way to predict the future is to create it." And I believe that for all entrepreneurs, they are creating not only their ideas, but they're creating their destinies. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I do believe that entrepreneurship is about being passionate about starting a business and shaping that business and then taking that idea to the market. And all of that does take perseverance. It's very challenging. It has to have a spirit of enterprise, or a spirit of inquiry, and of course a spirit of challenge. And I always believe that to be a successful entrepreneur, you've got to come up with something different. Differentiation to me is something that is an underlying ingredient of success, because differentiation allows you to create value which others need time to catching up with. And that's what I've learned during my entrepreneurial journey. So let me start with my own entrepreneurial journey. I started my company Biocon as a 10,000 rupee garage startup. And I can tell you that it was a business idea which was born out of a very unknown area or a technology called biotechnology. I had returned from Australia as a brewmaster who had a lot of domain knowledge in fermentation science. And because I didn't get a job as a brewer, I decided to start up my own business. And this was a time when, an entrepreneur was not a young person starting off in a garage, but about a seasoned, gray-haired, experienced person who had probably retired or taken a semi-retirement or an early retirement from a company, had a lot of experience and had the wherewithal to start a business. And I had none of that. But what I did have was that little idea, that seed of an idea that was about developing a biotechnology-based enzyme. And what is an enzyme? An enzyme is a biological catalyst, an organic catalyst. And my whole purpose was, how do I replace polluting chemical technologies with eco-friendly biological catalysts called enzymes? And that was my driving sense of purpose. That was my idea, which I wanted to shape and take to the market. And that's what I did for 20 years. That was something I stayed with for 20 years. And of course, it wasn't easy because it was about an idea ahead of its time. It was not something that people wanted to accept so easily, but then I endured with it. And of course, it wasn't easy because India was a very under-resourced country at that time. It was at the height of the license Raj, but it was my entrepreneurial spirit that kept me going. And I actually built that company step by step with a large number of challenges, which I will talk about a little later on. And what I want people to understand is that even though I started with enzymes, midway, I basically changed and pivoted my business to biopharmaceuticals. And that's one lesson I want all of you to learn from me. Pivoting and leveraging something that you built, something that you learned to do something different is extremely important, because an entrepreneur learns to reinvent, to pivot, to be resilient, to be agile when the opportunity arises. And that's what I did with my business. So for 20 years, I developed wonderful enzyme technologies. I became globally known for enzyme technologies. But there came a point when I said, why am I only making enzymes? And with these technologies, I ought to be doing something else. And that something else happened to be biopharmaceuticals. Again, I had to have a sense of purpose with which to actually develop biopharmaceuticals. And that sense of purpose then was that I had to basically develop biopharmaceuticals to basically provide affordable access to patients across the world who didn't have access to many of these important molecules I was trying to develop, because they were beyond the reach of most people in the developing world. The kind of products I was trying to develop using the technologies I had developed for enzymes were very expensive products. And these products were only developed for the advanced markets of US and Europe, where patients were rich enough to pay for them. Most of these products could not be afforded by the majority of people in the developing world. So that's what I wanted to change and disrupt. So that was my sense of purpose. I was determined to do it. And, I've been able to build a very successful biosimilars company, a biologics company that can actually disrupt and transform healthcare across the world. And today, of course, from that 10,000 rupee garage startup, I have a $7 billion market cap today for Biocon. And I want all of you to know that an entrepreneurial journey has to be about pivoting one's business based on the opportunity and based on your knowledge and learnings along the way. Let's take the example of mRNA vaccines. How do you think mRNA vaccines were developed? Actually, mRNA technology had been developed for a long time with cancer in mind. So if you look at a lot of the existing mRNA technologies, they've been developed for cancer. And when COVID-19 came around, many of these companies just pivoted and started developing it as a vaccine technology. And today we are fortunate that because of the pandemic, they were able to develop it very rapidly. And this is going to be a very exciting technology, which I hope will be successful and will be the rapid response to any new pandemic. So let me start with the fact that my purpose also has been reinvented along the way. So as I said, in 1978, the purpose was to be on a mission of greening the world, replacing chemical technologies with eco-friendly enzyme technologies. And then, as I said, midway, after 20 years of developing enzyme technologies, which I did for a large number of industries, from starch to paper and pulp, to textiles, to food industry, to the animal feed industry, etc., I then moved on to biopharmaceuticals, and my whole mission was about global healthcare. Okay, and that was what really kept me going. That was my sense of purpose, and that's what still keeps me going, because I really want to disrupt the global healthcare space. We simply cannot have, the healthcare industry profiteering at the cost of patients. I think patients must have access to, affordable healthcare products. I've always said, to me, a blockbuster drug is not about $1 billion, but about helping 1 billion patients. And in the process, you'll make billions. So that's my philosophy of doing business. So let me now talk about the challenges I went through in terms of building my company, Biocon. I was 25 years old. I was a woman. I had no business experience, and I was trying to build a company in this new sector called biotechnology that nobody understood. So I certainly had a lot of challenges. I had huge credibility challenges because, like I told you, in 1978, most people actually were experienced, older people, middle-aged people who knew exactly what it was to run a business. I had never started a business. I didn't even go to business school. There was a huge gender bias. Why? Because women were not considered capable to do business. And then I was trying to develop a biotech-led business. Nobody understood what biotechnology was, not even the bankers. And then in 1978, when I was trying to start a biotech business, India was a very under-resourced business. The infrastructure was so primitive. We didn't even have a short power supply. I couldn't even buy very important instrumentation to do many of the things I wanted to do, etc., etc. So it was tough, but I was able to attract good talent. I was able to attract engineers from IIT. I was able to attract scientists who had come back from India. And together we built a very sophisticated company in a very frugal environment. That was so exciting. That was so enabling. That was so self-motivating. I think that's what we all need to think about in our entrepreneurial journeys. And of course, because I was in this untrodden path, unfamiliar path, with no track record of being successful in business, I was a big banking risk. So I had a huge challenge trying to basically even access capital from banks. So this has been a big learning for me, saying don't give up. You know, challenges are very motivating when you overcome them. And always believe in yourself and be confident in overcoming challenges. That's the perseverance. That's the endurance that I'm talking about. So, as I said, what do you need to succeed? What do you need to succeed as an entrepreneur? I think you need a sense of purpose for sure, but that purpose must then be backed with determination and persistence. Then I also believe that you need to constantly be on the lookout to spot an opportunity, to seize an opportunity, and to do it with agility and speed, because that is what is required. That's what makes successful entrepreneurs. That's what allows you to pick an idea ahead of its time, and then you can succeed big time if you're ahead of others. As I said, one of the things you must also ensure is that you have a deep sense of integrity and a sense of values when you're building your business. Don't be in a hurry, don't take shortcuts. Persist, endure, and build your business with a very good sense of values. There are no shortcuts in building a successful business. A strong and consistent work ethic is extremely important when you're building your own companies. And you must carry out everything with a deep sense of ownership. It's not just about me, but it's about all my employees. I always tell them, own your responsibilities. Have that sense of ownership. I always tell people, I want you to be problem solvers. I want you to own your responsibilities and solve your own problems. In my company, I've created a culture of saying, I don't want it to be a task-driven company. I want it to be a problem-solving company, because I've always felt you solve a problem, you get more confident, you get empowered, you have a huge sense of self-assurance and self-confidence. That's what builds successful and strong and enduring companies. So let's now turn briefly to what does startups look like in India. Entrepreneurship to me is exciting because I think, the first tech startup in the country in 1978. A garage startup is a very exciting thought when I look back on it. It may not have been so great at that time, but when I look back on it, I feel very proud that I was a garage startup. Today, it is estimated that we have 55,000 tech startups by the end of 2020. 3,000 of these are in the biotech sector. And what's even more exciting is that we've attracted $63 billion of funding in the startup ecosystem. That's a lot of money, and I'm sure that the the amount we can attract in the future is much, much more than this, because India is becoming a recognized startup hub, innovation hub, and I think there's no dearth of ideas. India has so many problems, so many challenges that you can come up with an idea a second. Therefore, you should be able to start a company every second in India. That is the exciting opportunity that we have in terms of entrepreneurship in this country. And I always tell people, I was looking for a job, but instead of that one job that I didn't get, I created thousands of jobs. So become a job creator by becoming an entrepreneur. They say it takes 7 years on an average for an Indian startup to reach a unicorn status. That's pretty fast. I took 25 years to become a unicorn. Of course, those days were different. And of course, I'm not an IT startup. It's tougher to be a biotech startup and a unicorn. But even today, we are seeing unicorns being born. I am very proud that in my own, I have seen many, many startups come out of Biocon. And most recently, one of my colleagues became the first unicorn out of Biocon itself. So I'm very happy with that, that happening. In India, there are already 34 unicorns, okay? And I'm sure there are many, many more to come. So let's look at some of the very innovative startup ideas that have drawn some attention. Of course, health record digitization and sharing companies are very, very exciting. Many companies have pivoted and have made PPE kits, diagnostics, and vaccines, and we are also developing the first mRNA vaccine in India. So lots of things are happening in biotech, in IT, in digital technology, in medtech. It's very, very exciting. There's a company that's developing a cheap home solar energy setup. There's a company developing biometric sensors, and that's very important going forward because healthcare is going to be about biometric sensors going forward. And then, of course, drone technologies are becoming very, very exciting. We've got even companies building satellites in the private sector, in the startup sector. So it's all very, very, very exciting. So let me now turn to women entrepreneurs. Okay, so when you look at women entrepreneurs, I remember when I started my company Biocon in 1978, I had another driving purpose. One was I wanted to be a research-led company, a company where I could attract scientists and scientists would have jobs and scientists would have great careers. That was one driving purpose. But the second driving purpose was also for women. I wanted women to enter my company and have a career path for themselves. And therefore, I was determined to have a large number of women employees. Today, our research centers have over 40 to 50% in many cases of women scientists. Other parts of our businesses don't have as many women. I'd like them to be more. But on an average, we have 30% women across the board. I would like it to be a 50-50 gender balanced company, but I hope it's not too far off. Now, when it comes to women, I think we really need to encourage women entrepreneurs because women entrepreneurs become economically dependent, and therefore they are now no longer dependent on others. I think you have to be economically independent. So I think that is extremely important for women entrepreneurs. Then I think being a woman entrepreneur, I think there are very positive social outcomes because we have a multiplier effect on our societies. I've always found that women entrepreneurs really have a very, very strong social impact because they actually, motivate other women to also follow career paths. I think, as I mentioned, a personal outcome is really feeling self-motivated, confident, and of course having economic independence, which is so important for all women across the world. And then I think women entrepreneurs have the opportunity to fuel innovation. And many women entrepreneurs can look at unmet needs in a very different way. Women look at unmet needs very differently to men because they're looking at social needs, family needs, and other kinds of needs that women can perceive and men can't. So I think they can come up with very, very innovative ideas. I know a woman who has developed a company which is, which is actually innovated sanitary napkins from banana fiber. Now that's a very innovative idea. I don't think most men would have thought about it, but women realize that they have to find cheap and very sustainable and eco-friendly solutions for menstrual, use. So I think that was a very innovative idea, and a woman is leading that enterprise. Now, let's look at what are the ways to celebrate and support women entrepreneurs. I do believe that we must promote local women-owned small businesses on social media. I always support them. Give a review of your favorite women-owned businesses. I think we must talk about it. We must constantly report our views and our preferences of women-owned businesses. Mentor a woman that is starting a business or looking to start a business. I always try to host or attend at least a gathering of women entrepreneurs. It's very important to engage and show that you're a growing tribe. Join a women entrepreneurs organization. I always encourage, it's not just about women. I think men and women have to basically be very agnostic to who that leader is, if it's a woman or a man. But I think I remember when I started my business, nobody wanted to work for a woman. I remember, forget men, but even women didn't want to work for me because they thought I was high risk, that I couldn't give them job security. Today, I'm so proud that I have over 15,000 employees who are very proud to work for Biocon and call themselves Bioconites. Starting your own business is extremely important, and I think you should try and see if you can make purchases from women-owned businesses. I think that would be very motivating and rewarding for women entrepreneurs. So my view is entrepreneurship is about being different and daring, pursuing business differentiation with bold ideas, and above all, to pursue your goals and aspirations with a purposeful resolve. I have shared with you a story of mine which is really about this. It's about being different. It's about making sure that you endure, you persist. I can tell you many more things about my story, because when I was getting into biopharmaceuticals, I can tell you that I was treading on a path that was very risky. And very often they say, oh, women are not good risk takers. I can tell you every entrepreneur, whether you're a man or a woman, is a risk taker. And I said, don't be judgmental. Don't be so gender biased, because I am a big risk taker. And I took a big risk, because when I got into biopharmaceuticals, when I went down this path of biosimilars, a lot of people said to me, a lot of investors said to me, a lot of shareholders said to me, you're taking a big risk. No big Indian pharmaceutical company is taking that risk with all the experience that they have. You're a young biopharmaceutical company, a young pharmaceutical company. Why are you taking this risk? I said, I'm taking this risk because it is about differentiation. Because nobody else is willing to go down this path, that's a great opportunity for me. I want to go down this path. So I invested in a big way. I took a big risk. I made sure that we had the science to back that risk. I made sure that I invested in capabilities that back that risk. I made sure that we even partnered some of that risk to slightly lower the risk. And in the end, we became the first company out of India, and we remain that first company out of India to have such a large portfolio of biosimilar molecules that have been approved by US FDA and the European regulatory agencies and the Japanese regulatory agencies. No other Indian company has been able to do this. Why? Because we believed in ourselves, we took that risk, we invested in that risk, we mitigated that risk, and we succeeded. That's what entrepreneurship is about. That's the endurance journey that I'm talking about. I want all of you to understand that entrepreneurship is not an easy journey. It is a journey full of challenges. It is a journey that will constantly make you feel very frustrated. Very often you'll say, oh my God, Am I constantly going to have these problems? Can I never get out of it? Very often people ask me, isn't there a time when you wanted to give up? And I said, never. Because an entrepreneur seldom gives up. An entrepreneur stays with that challenge and overcomes that challenge. And like I said, I get very motivated by solving problems and overcoming challenges. That's the story of entrepreneurship. And I think every entrepreneur goes through this. So I just want to leave you with this message that entrepreneurship is a very exciting journey. It's a very self-motivating journey. It's a journey of empowerment. It's a journey of inspiration. And it's a journey that will make a big difference to our national economy. I think that is what it's about. It is the biggest job creating sector in our country. And that's what I want all of you to understand as to why you should be a part of an entrepreneurial story. Don't just try and join big companies. Join a startup or create a startup if you can. And of course, even if you join a big company, try and be entrepreneurial within that company. Own your responsibility. Solve problems. That's the way we will make our country great. Another thing I also want to message here is that India has a huge potential. India itself must have self-belief. I often say we talk about Atmanirbhar Bharat, but it's also about Atma Vishwas. We must believe in ourselves because unless we believe in ourselves, unless we really know that we can do it, we will not be Atmanirbhar. We constantly look to the West, and that is not the way to build Atmanirbhar. We must believe in our own technology. We must believe in our own capabilities, and we must invest in building those capabilities. I don't say that, we know everything. No, we have to learn from others. But let's learn from others and learn to respect our own capabilities. That's what it's all about. I have developed many products where unfortunately I've not had the support of my own doctors in our country believing that this product is good enough. And the same product is being sold in the US and European countries by doctors who are KOLs who think that we have great products. And I want our own doctors in our own country to know that it's not about just prescribing a drug made by an MNC. The MNC has not had the same sense of purpose and mission that I've had. MNCs are not about affordable access to patients around the world. We have that mission. I want every patient in the world to be able to afford my medicine. I don't think MNCs have that kind of mission. So please believe in ourselves, believe in our mission, and that's the kind of message I want to leave with all of you. So let me start now in the Q&A session because I think we have now half an hour left. And I would like to now start with the first question that has been asked by Pavitra Ram. What can enable more women to reach the heights of success that you have achieved? As I said, it is about believing in yourself. It is about making sure that you back it with determination and perseverance. That's what it's about. I always tell a lot of women, men, entrepreneurs, are so confident that they will make a small idea sound very big. And I often say to women, you make a big idea sound small, which is what the problem is. You're so modest, you're so humble, you're so scared to even project your idea in a big way that you actually don't get taken seriously. I think women must learn to be confident. Women must believe in themselves. Women must believe in their ideas like I did. I always believed that what I did was a big idea. I always believed that an idea was able to have a huge potential. And that's what I built. I built my business and my efforts around making that idea big. Okay, and it has succeeded. So I want all the women to understand that this is what entrepreneurship is about. Even if it's a small idea, try and make it into a big idea. And if it's a big idea, I think you should really run with it and make it into a big opportunity. So let me come to the second question. The second question was, who was your inspiration growing up and why? So let me start with my father. My father was my great inspiration when I left college. It was my father who told me, Kiran, why don't you go and do this brewing program in Australia? Because he himself was a brewmaster. And I said to my father, aren't you giving me the wrong advice? After all, I'm a girl. Should I be doing brewing? And he said, Kiran, don't get gender biased. This is about brewing science. Science does not have a gender bias. Science is agnostic to who is studying it. This is fermentation science. This is microbiological sciences. You are so interested in this and you want applied science. So go for it. And I went for it. And let me tell you, the fact that I went through my brewing program stands me in good stead even today, because my strength and my understanding of fermentation science and microbiology and the kind of things we're doing today is so allied, it's so related. My late father used to tell me, you know, brewing is the oldest biotechnology known to man, and he was so right, because it's about leveraging platforms, it's about leveraging science, it's about leveraging ideas, and that's what I've done all my life. I've been agnostic to the technology, I've been agnostic to the science. I've just leveraged it in whatever way I could. And that's, you know, I would say many of the reasons why I have succeeded the way I have today. And I want all of you to think about being agnostic to a business model. For instance, let me say that you might start with micro insurance, but that micro insurance per se, you know, if you can, it can be leveraged for micro financing, for micro home financing. It can be used for micro health financing, and you can do micro loans, etc., etc. You know, you can do so many things with a business model or an idea and cut across many sectors. So, you know, keep your mind open. Don't be closed. Actually, let me go back to that question. After my father, who are the other people who inspired me? I always get inspired by people who are doing things very differently. I always get inspired by people who are ahead of the curve, people who think out of the box. And the next person who really inspired me was Professor Mashelkar. Professor Mashelkar and I have remained very dear friends because I think we both motivate each other. I remember Professor Mashelkar at that time was the director of CSIR in India, and he was trying to get into creating value through IP, and he came up with patent literacy, and he used to discuss with me, how do we get Indian research to create IP, and I was very motivated by that. And he and I would have lots of discussions about how do we put India on the science map of the world? How do we put India on the research map of the world? How do we create innovative companies in this country? And he was the one who came up with something which resonates so closely with my own heart. More from less for more, he would say. How do we as a country which has, you know, frugal resources get more out of less resources that will impact more people? And that's what I'm also committed to, affordable access through economies of scale. How do I do that? You know, affordable innovation, affordable access. That's what drives me. And that comes from what Professor Mashelkar is saying. And then, of course, Mr. Wagul, who used to head ICICI. It was so difficult for me to access capital as a biotech entrepreneur because nobody understood biotechnology. They would say, where's your collateral? You know, this is too risky. We cannot give you such a loan. And then Mr. Wagul heard me and talked up, you know, looked at what I was trying to create. It was a proprietary enzyme technology. And he said to me, wow, this is exciting. I've just started up a venture fund company. I'm going to invest in your company. And then together we both started getting very interested in venture capital and startups and incubation. And even today, of course, Mr. Wagul is, I consider, my mentor. So these are the people who have inspired me. And then, of course, I get inspired by a lot of people who have created very successful businesses in India. Like, of course, Mr. Narayan Murthy, Mr. Azim Premji. I'm very inspired by Nandani Lekani because of, you know, this whole Aadhaar, the unique identification number that he has created for the country, etc., etc. Dr. Devi Shetty, the way he has built his business. So I continuously get inspired by these kind of people who have built their companies, especially in India, in such an innovative way. Now, what was the pandemic? How has the pandemic impacted the biopharmaceutical industry? I think it was very good for the biopharmaceutical industry because thanks to this pandemic, the biotech sector pivoted so rapidly. We started making diagnostic tests. We started making, vaccines. In fact, we're going to get the first mRNA vaccine also out of a startup in India. We started developing new therapeutics. We ourselves repurposed drugs, one of our drugs for treating cytokine release storm, and we've saved thousands of lives. So I think a lot of companies realized that they had to quickly pivot their businesses to address the pandemic. And so many people started, of course, pivoting their businesses into making masks, into making ventilators, and so on and so forth. And I think we've never seen this level of innovation and innovativeness that has come out from Indian companies during the pandemic. And that actually makes you realize that we have this potential. It was so latent, but it's being unlocked. Let's not lose that opportunity. I think we must innovate our ways, not only out of this pandemic, but also to make sure that we drive economic growth and sustainable economic growth through innovation. That is what is going to make us a great economy. How important is higher education in becoming a successful entrepreneur and why? Personally, I think it does not take higher education to become a successful entrepreneur. If you look at entrepreneurs around the world, it's about, as I said, passion, perseverance, and purpose. If you have a great idea, it doesn't matter whether you got higher education or not. Even a school kid can get a great idea and you can make a great business out of it. I recently met a very interesting entrepreneur, Nikhil Kamath, who started Zerodha as a financial services company. It's one of the most successful financial services company. He is able to see investment opportunities better than others. And he is not a higher educated, he is not a person who went to university or college. In fact, he barely completed school, he tells me. He went to a rural school in Shimoga. And yet today he's a unicorn. His company is a unicorn. And he's built it based on technology. He uses common sense. That resonates a lot with me because I also drive my business by a lot of common sense and a lot of intuitiveness. And that's what he does. And I just met him, I spoke to him, I was so inspired by what he did. So at the same time, you have brilliant people with high education who have created fantastic companies. My good friend Rohan Murthy has created this fantastic AI-based company, machine learning-based company. He is a very, very educated person who has done his PhD in computer science from Harvard. And he's a brilliant guy who has built a brilliant company. So it is not that you have to have higher education, but I think it's about having that passion, having that idea, and shaping and scaling that idea. That is what it's about. And then the next question is, what does a day in Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw's life look like? Well, I guess I'm a person that, of course, on a regular day, I get up in the morning, my day, I wake up between 6:30 and 7 in the morning. I, go for a walk. I play with my dogs. If possible, I go for a quick swim, but I certainly go to the gym and have a small workout. I get ready. I come to work. I spend till quite a long time at work. Luckily, as you know, I had COVID. So I'm still protected because I measure my antibodies every month and I'm still protected, thankfully. So I'm able to come to work and I do like to come to work. So I'm talking to you from my office and I'm here till generally about 6 or 7 in the evening. I go back and then I catch up with my husband and my 90-year-old mother. And then we often watch, Netflix and then have dinner. And then, of course, invariably, I'm also doing late night Zoom calls because, these days the virtual world doesn't allow you to finish your work or your day very fast. So that's my normal day during the week. Over the weekend, I try to relax. I try to kind of not take too many meetings, even though I do take a few meetings. But I try to relax with friends and family. I definitely have a leisurely day. I don't get up at 6:30. I might get up at 7:30 or 8 o'clock even, if possible. I do manage to catch up with friends now and then, but it's still difficult. Everything hasn't opened up as yet. I really miss catching up with my family because we used to always spend holidays, summer holidays, winter holidays together. My family lives in Canada, in US, and we like to catch up with over these holidays. So I really miss that a lot. I also have very close friends who are like family in Spain. So I like to catch up with all of them in Spain or in the US. Of course, my favorite place is also vacationing in Thailand, and we love vacationing in Italy, in Spain. I have not been able to go there. I came back on the 9th of March last year from New York, and I haven't stepped out since then. So I'm really now wanting to go and travel a bit because it is getting very sedentary. So that's how I really spend my time. I love watching sport as well. I love music. I love, of course, viewing documentaries and films. And of course, I keep very busy because I've joined so many different forums, boards, and of course, very busy with my own work. So I would say that it's been a very busy time. And as for the biotech sector, I think we've done a great job. The biotech sector is in the spotlight. I think there's a lot of venture funds coming into biotech. There's huge opportunities to innovate new diagnostics, new vaccines, new therapeutics. And it's not just about the pandemic. It's about so many different areas. There is a company that I know which is developing the next generation antibiotics to address antimicrobial drug resistance and things like that. So I think there's so much, to be done. And I think there's an idea for everybody. So with that, I would like to say a big, big thank you to everyone. I think it's been a great pleasure for me to speak to all of you. And I do hope I've given you some lessons. I hope I've been able to share with you a lot of my ideas and thoughts which are useful for many of you. And I wish every one of you a great life ahead. Thank you.